You have been lied to from the very moment you learned to understand human speech. And this lie is so grandiose, so all-encompassing, that you didn't just believe in it, you made it the foundation of your existence, not even suspecting that you are building a castle on quicksand that will inevitably swallow you whole. You look at the world through the prism of distorted optics sold to you by your parents, your teachers, and those smiling vultures from bank commercials assuring you that happiness is a signature on a 30-year contract. But let me ask you one question that will make you physically uncomfortable. Have you ever wondered why, following all the rules, you still feel that sticky, cold fear at 3 in the morning when you stare at the ceiling? You think it's just insomnia or stress from work, but I will tell you the truth your brain is desperately trying to block. It is the sound of a ticking timer, counting down the seconds of your life sold into slavery to things you don't even own. You call these assets. You proudly pronounce the words property and real estate, puffing up with self-importance like a turkey before Christmas. But let's perform a mental vivisection of your property right now. Imagine the moment you signed the mortgage contract. You felt pride, right? You thought it was a moment of triumph, an entry ticket to the club of successful people. But what if I tell you that in that moment, you were not buying a house, but putting on an invisible collar, the leash of which stretches into the hands of people who despise you? I have seen empires crumble and billionaires turn into beggars overnight. And do you know what all the losers had in common? They confused the weight of chains with the weight of gold. You convinced yourself that a concrete box is your fortress, your defense against the chaos of the outside world. But it is an illusion created so that you continue running in the wheel until your heart stops. You think you own the walls, but in reality, the walls own you. Every creak of a floorboard, every pipe leak, every tax bill is a lash of the whip, reminding you who the real master is. Remember the day you first thought, I need to buy an apartment to feel safe. That was not your thought. It was a virus implanted in your consciousness by an industry that profits from your fear. I remember 1974, the height of the crisis, when people were throwing themselves out of windows because their safe assets turned into dust. And I sat in a room with a man who didn't lose a cent, even though he had not a single building, not a single plot of land, not a single key in his pocket. He looked at the panicking moneybags with the same pity with which you look at an ant trying to carry a piece of bread that is too heavy for it. I asked him then, "What is your secret?" And he answered with a phrase that haunted me for decades, a phrase the meaning of which reaches most people only when they lie on their deathbed and realize they spent their life servicing bricks. He said, they think they are buying a place to live, but in reality, they are buying themselves a prison cell and paying the warden's salary themselves. At that moment, I thought he was crazy, because the entire economy, the entire culture was screaming the opposite. But then I started seeing cracks in the facade of reality. You look at your house and see coziness. I look at it and see a liability masquerading as an asset, a vampire sucking out your liquidity, your mobility, and most terrifyingly, your time. Have you ever tried to sell a dream in a crisis? It looks like trying to sell water to a drowning man. Nobody wants your problems, and suddenly your investment becomes an anchor dragging you to the bottom while you desperately try to gulp air. But the scariest part isn't even that. The scariest part is that you voluntarily agreed to this deal. You held out your hands for the handcuffs yourself because you were promised that it was an adult decision. An adult decision? Rationality? Don't make me laugh. Rationality is mathematics, and the mathematics of your life right now is an equation where the result is always zero. You work to pay for the place where you sleep, to gather strength for work, to pay for the place where you sleep. This is not life. This is a closed cycle of biological existence profitable to anyone but you. And here begins the real plot twist that should give you goosebumps. You feel this discomfort, this vague sensation that you have been deceived, but you are afraid to admit it to yourself, because admitting it would mean that for the last 10 or 20 years, you were going the wrong way. You are standing on the edge of a precipice, and I am not here to comfort you or say that everything will be fine. I am here to push you and see if you can fly or if you will crash against the rocks of your own stupidity. You thought the scariest thing was losing money. No, the scariest thing is realizing that the asset you prayed to is actually your main enemy. A Trojan horse you yourself rolled into the gates of your life. I hold the answer in my hands, the key to exiting this labyrinth, but you won't be able to accept it until you kill the hope in yourself that the old rules still work. You look at me and wait for simple advice, but I don't give advice. I give diagnoses, and your diagnosis is acute financial myopia, complicated by a chronic addiction to social approval. Are you ready to hear what actually makes a person rich? Are you ready to learn that there exists an asset that requires from you neither repairs, nor taxes, nor communication with idiots, an asset that would work for you even if you fell into a coma for 50 years? This sounds like magic or a scam because your brain is poisoned by the idea that money must be earned with sweat and blood, that you need to suffer to earn. But that is a lie for the poor. The rich do not suffer. The rich own what is invisible to the eye of the layman. But before I open this door for you, you must answer one cruel question for yourself. Are you ready to admit that everything you were proud of until today was a mistake? Because if you are not ready to burn your beliefs, you will never see the truth hiding behind the smokescreen of successful success. I see how you doubt, how your mind looks for arguments to defend the familiar picture of the world, but look at your hands. They are empty, despite all your efforts. You are holding on to air. And now imagine that there is a way to own the world without touching it, a way to force time to work for you, not against you. I am going to show you something that will make you feel like a complete idiot for not doing it sooner. But that feeling of shame will be the best thing that has happened to you in your entire life, because it will become the beginning of your liberation. You thought you knew the rules of the game? You don't even know what game you're playing. You think your main enemy is the market, which might crash, or the boss who might fire you, but these are childish fears you hide behind to avoid looking the real monster in the eye. The real enemy sits inside your skull, in that ancient part of the brain you inherited from monkeys. And this monkey is obsessed with one fatal idea. If I can't touch it, it doesn't exist. You hold on to physical objects, to keys, to walls, to gold bars under the mattress, because tactile sensations give you a false sense of control. But let me tell you a story that will knock the ground from under your feet. Once a man came to me who considered himself the king of security. He had 10 apartments, 0 stocks, and complete confidence that he had outplayed the system because bricks don't disappear. But when I looked at his balance sheet, I saw not an empire, but a graveyard. I asked him, "Do you understand that you are not an investor?" And he laughed in my face. But the laughter got stuck in his throat when I showed him the simple arithmetic of entropy. You think you own a house? No, you own decaying matter that wages war with physics every second. Roofs leak, pipes rust, neighborhoods degrade, and while you sleep, your safe investment slowly turns into garbage requiring constant infusions of money just to stay in place. You call this passive income? I call it a second job for which you paid millions to get the right to hire yourself as a janitor. But here's where the plot makes a sharp turn that will make your head spin. You think the alternative to this is risk, but in reality, the alternative is the only way to save yourself from an invisible killer who is already in your room. Do you feel his presence? This is not paranoia. This is inflation. Most of you think of inflation as a rise in the price of milk, but that is a lie for the poor. In reality, inflation is a tax on your cowardice. You keep money in the bank thinking it is safe, but every year, an invisible hand reaches into your pocket and takes out chunks of your life, your labor, your time, and you don't even file a police report. Imagine you are building a house of ice in the desert. You can be proud of how strong it is today, but physics is ruthless, and tomorrow only a puddle will remain. I have seen people who held millions in cash waiting for the best moment, and 10 years later, they discovered that their millions had turned into wrappers with which you can buy only a used car. And at that moment, shock arrives, the moment of truth, when you realize what you considered the safest place on earth, your bank account or safe, is actually death row for your capital. You ran from market volatility, but ran straight into the jaws of guaranteed destruction of purchasing power. You think I am laying it on thick? Look at the history of money over the last 100 years. Not a single paper currency has survived. They all tend toward zero, and you, holding on to them, are heading there too. But wait, you probably think, okay, Charlie, I get it. Money is trash, concrete is work, but what remains then? And here I must reveal a secret to you that seems counterintuitive, almost insane to your monkey brain. The safest thing in the world is what cannot be touched with hands, but what controls everything you touch. Have you ever wondered why the richest people in the world do not own a large amount of real estate as a percentage of their capital? Because they know what you don't know. Owning a building means owning problems, while owning the business that resides in that building means owning the flow. But you are afraid of business. You are afraid of stocks because the TV told you it's a casino, and you believed it because fear sells better than logic. But let's flip the chessboard. What if I tell you that buying stocks is not a guessing game, but an act of supreme rational laziness? When you buy a share in a great company, you're not buying a lottery ticket. You're buying an army of thousands of the smartest people, engineers, managers, who get up at 6 a.m., drink their coffee, endure stress, solve problems, and create products to bring profit. To whom? To you. You sit in a chair. You do nothing. You don't even know their names, but they work for you. Does this sound like exploitation? No, this is capitalism in its purest divine form. But your brain resists. It screams, but the chart can fall. I can lose money. And here we approach the culmination of your delusion, the moment when the Santa Barbara in your head must end and reality must begin. You think a market drop is a catastrophe? You look at red numbers and see loss? I look at the same numbers and see a sale in a luxury goods store where the price of the future has been cut by 30% and you, instead of buying, run to the exit screaming in terror. Do you understand the irony? You haggle for every cent buying tomatoes at the market. But when you are offered to buy the world's best businesses at a discount, you fall into a panic. This is not just stupidity. This is financial suicide. You are afraid of volatility, but volatility is the price you pay for entry into the club of the owners of the world. If you are not ready to see your account fall by 50% and still sleep calmly, then you are doomed to be poor, doomed to work until the grave, doomed to depend on handouts from the state. I want you to feel this pain right now, the pain of realizing that your safety is a myth. You are standing on the deck of a sinking ship called fiat money, and instead of getting into a lifeboat called business, you cling to the mast, thinking it will save you, but the water is rising. You thought the enemy was outside? No, the enemy is your desire for comfort here and now. You want guarantees? In the world, there is only one guarantee. If you do not force your money to work through owning productive assets, you will work yourself until your knees fail. And now, when I have destroyed your faith in bricks and cash, when you stand on the ruins of your beliefs, naked and frightened, the main question arises: does an asset exist that combines the power of an army of employees and the simplicity of a stone? Does a holy grail exist that allows you to own the whole world at once without risking everything on one card? The answer is right under your nose, but you are too busy looking at your feet to notice it. Are you ready to lift your head? I know what is happening in your head right now. I hear that feverish grinding of the gears of your mind, trying to find a way out of the dead end into which I have driven you. You look at me with a silent question frozen in your eyes. Charlie, if real estate is a prison and cash is melting ice, then what do I do? Where do I run? You expect that now I will pull a rabbit out of a hat, name a secret ticker of some tech company that invented a cure for death, or suggest investing in a startup mining gold on asteroids. You expect me to give you a treasure map where X marks the spot where millions are buried, but here is your first shock. The map does not exist because the treasure is not hidden. It lies in plain sight, but you are too blind to see it. You think the solution to your problem is to become smarter, learn to read charts, analyze balance sheets, and predict the future. But this is exactly the trap that 99% of people who consider themselves investors fall into. You think the stock market is a casino where you need to guess which number the ball will land on, and you are right. For you, it is a casino because you behave like a gambler looking for a dose of adrenaline. But what if I tell you that there is a way to enter this casino, not through the main entrance, where a crowd of losers gamble away their last pants, but through the service door leading to the owner's office? At this moment, you should feel the ground slipping from under your feet, because I am about to flip your understanding of capitalism upside down. You do not need to beat the market. You need to become the market. You search for a needle in a haystack, spending years, nerves, and health trying to find that one stock that will soar. But while you're digging in the straw, I simply buy the whole stack. You think it's boring. You think it's too simple to be true? Here lies the greatest irony. Complexity sells because it flatters your ego, making you feel important. But simplicity makes you rich, and that is exactly why you reject it. Imagine for a second that you can own a piece of every successful business in your country without getting off the couch. You thought you needed to be Rockefeller for this? No. For this, you just need to kill the speculator in yourself. When you buy an index, you're not buying pieces of paper. You're buying human civilization. You're buying the sweat, blood, ambition, and genius of millions of people who wake up every morning with one goal: to make their company richer. And do you know what the most beautiful thing about this picture is? They don't even know of your existence, but they work for you. You drink coffee in the morning? Excellent! The company that sold it just put a penny in my pocket. You Google how to become rich? Perfect. The search engine earned on advertising, and part of that profit is mine. You buy a new phone, order a taxi, pay for a streaming subscription. Every move you make, every breath you take generates profit for corporations. And if you own a share in them, you turn your expenses into income. You thought you were just a consumer, a victim of the system being milked by corporations? That was the first act of our drama. But now the curtain rises and you see the second act. You can change your role from victim to beneficiary by simply pressing one button. But here, a new question arises that should be tormenting you right now. If it is so simple, why isn't everyone around rich? Why do your friends, colleagues, and neighbors continue to buy concrete boxes and play the lottery? The answer will make you feel lonely, but it is a noble loneliness because they lack temperament. They have the brains to understand the idea, but they don't have the stomach to digest it. They cannot bear the thought that their wealth does not require their participation. They need action. They need drama. They need to feel that they are managing the process, but the market punishes activity and rewards lethargy. You thought the main secret was information. I thought the same when I was young and stupid. I read thousands of reports. I looked for insider info. I thought I knew what others didn't. But then I saw it. I saw a housewife who simply put money into an index fund and forgot the account password, outperform Wall Street pros working 100 hours a week. At that moment, my world collapsed. I realized that all my knowledge, all my analysis, all my intellectual power was not just useless, it was harmful. I was trying to outsmart the collective mind of the planet instead of simply joining it. This is the moment of catharsis you must experience right now. You don't need to be a hero. You don't need to be a visionary. You need to be a parasite in the best biological sense of the word. You latch on to the artery of the global economy and let it feed you. Sound cynical? Perhaps. But look in the mirror and ask yourself, do you want to be a noble loser or a cynical winner? However, as soon as you start to feel relief, as soon as it seems to you that you have found the Holy Grail, I must throw you a new riddle that will make you go cold inside again. You think the hardest part is to start? No. The hardest part is to do nothing when the world around you is going crazy. Imagine you bought this perfect asset. You own the world, you feel like a genius, and suddenly, tomorrow comes. The news screams of war, pandemic, inflation. The market falls by 20%, 30%, 50%. Everyone around is running with their hair on fire, shouting, "Sell, save yourself." And in this moment, when panic grips your throat with an icy hand, when every instinct in your body screams, "Run!" you must do what contradicts human nature itself. You thought I was selling you a financial instrument? I deceived you. I am not selling you stocks. I am selling you the philosophy of Stoicism packaged in a financial product. The only asset you need is the ability to watch your money burn and not reach for the fire extinguisher, because you know this is not a fire, this is a controlled burn, after which the soil will only become more fertile. Are you ready for such psychological torture? Most people break. They sell at the bottom, locking in losses, and return to their concrete cages, convincing themselves that the stock market is a scam. But you are still here. You listen to me, and I see anger waking up in you. You are angry that you were lied to, angry at your past naivety. But this anger is good fuel. You will need it, because now that you know what to buy, a wall stands before you that cannot be broken with your head, but can be dismantled brick by brick. This wall is time. You think you understood the essence? You think you are safe now? Oh, how wrong you are. The scariest trial is still ahead, and it is connected not to the market, not to the economy, but to simple, ruthless mathematics that can make you a king or a beggar, depending on whose side you're on. Are you ready to learn exactly how this mathematics will kill your hopes or raise them to the heavens? Or will you prefer to remain in sweet ignorance until reality knocks on your door with an eviction notice? Now that you have the map in your hands and know that the Holy Grail is not a concrete box but a share in the global economy, you probably feel a surge of enthusiasm. But I am forced to douse you with ice water, because it is at this very moment that you are in the greatest danger. You think the hardest part is behind you, that it is enough just to press the buy button and wait for wealth. But you forgot one small detail that has destroyed more fortunes than all wars and crises combined. That detail is your own brain, which is biologically incapable of understanding the concept I'm about to tell you about. And if you don't break your nature right now, you will die poor, even owning the best assets in the world. Have you heard the term compound interest? Of course you have. You nod, thinking, yes, Charlie, interest on interest. I learned that in school. But you are lying to yourself, because if you truly, at a cellular level, understood what it is, you wouldn't be sitting here, but running down the street, looking for any dollar to throw into the furnace of this machine. The human brain evolved to understand linear processes. If I kill a mammoth, I will be full for a week. If I kill two, I will be full for 2 weeks. This is linear progression. 1 + 1 = 2. But wealth is not created by addition. Wealth is created by multiplication, and this is exactly the place where your intuition betrays you, leading you into the trap of mediocrity. Let me ask you a riddle that will expose your cognitive blindness. If I offer you $3 million in cash right now, or one pathetic coin of 1 cent that doubles every day for a month, what will you choose? Your greed, your monkey essence screams, "Give me the millions!" Because you want the result here and now. You want to see a mountain of money. But if you choose the millions, you are an idiot who just lost a fortune, because that pathetic cent will turn into more than $10 million in 31 days. Do you feel that stab of disappointment? That is the pain of your intuition colliding with the reality of the exponential. But here is where the real drama begins, that very plot twist that forces people to quit halfway. In the first days of the cent doubling, you see nothing. Day 5, you have 16 cents. Day 10, you have $5. You look at your neighbor who took the $3 million. He buys sports cars. He laughs at you. He says, "Look, I am rich, and you are messing with pocket change." And at that moment, when social pressure becomes unbearable, When it seems to you that you are losing the race, most of you break. You sell your magic cent to buy some junk, to prove to the neighbor that you are worth something too. You think the enemy is the lack of money? No, the enemy is boredom. The initial stage of exponential growth looks like a straight line, like the death of a cardiogram. You invest money in an index fund, a year passes, 2, 3, and nothing happens. You see a pathetic 8 to 10% per year, and your brain starts whispering, "This doesn't work. It's too slow. I need faster. I need leverage. I need crypto. I need real estate with a mortgage." You start looking for action, and exactly at that moment, you slit the throat of your future. You do not understand that boredom is a camouflage under which an avalanche hides. Have you ever seen an avalanche? First, it's just a snowflake pushing another snowflake. Quiet, slow, safe. But then a critical mass arrives, an inflection point, and the whole mountain collapses down with a force that sweeps away cities. In finance, this point arrives around the 15th or 20th year. It's called the hockey stick. The graph suddenly goes vertically up. But to live to see that moment, you must pass through the valley of death, through decades when it seems to you that you are standing still. Are you ready to wait 20 years to become obscenely rich? Honestly, most of you will say yes, but in reality, you won't last a week. You will start checking the account every day. You will react to news. You will see the market fall by 5% and say, "I better take what's left." You think you are managing risks? No, you are killing compound interest in the bud. It is like digging up a planted seed after a day to check if it has taken root. You are not just killing the plant, you are killing the forest that could have grown from it. And now let's return to your beloved real estate and look at its math without rose-colored glasses. You take a mortgage at 5-7%. You think that's cheap? You forgot about material inflation, taxes, insurance. The real return on real estate, considering all costs and your time, is often negative. You are not multiplying money. You are preserving it with losses. But the stock market, that is pure mathematics of productivity. Companies reinvest profits, creating new technologies, new markets, new money out of thin air, and this process accelerates itself. You don't need to paint walls for Apple stocks to grow. You don't need to change pipes for Amazon to conquer the world. But here, I must reveal a secret that might shock you. You think time is money? No. Time is a multiplier. If you have zero money, time will multiply it by zero. But if you have at least a little capital and iron discipline, time will turn it into an empire. However, you have a problem you may not have realized yet. Your timer has already started. Every day you spend pondering, every day you spend on consumption rather than accumulating assets is not just a lost day. It is a burned year of your future freedom. You think you can start tomorrow? Mathematics says, no. If you start investing at 20, you need to save pennies. If you start at 40, you need to save half your salary. If you start at 50, you might have to sell a kidney. Do you feel the vice tightening? It is not me scaring you. It is arithmetic holding a gun to your temple. And the funniest part of this tragedy is that you cocked the hammer yourself by putting off the decision until later. You think you understood everything. You think, okay, Charlie, I get it. Patience is needed. But you missed the main point. Patience is not passive waiting. Patience is aggressive action to suppress your instincts. It is war. Every day you wake up and fight your desire to buy a new car, your fear of the news, your desire to be smart. You must become dumb, dumb as a rock, because only a rock can lie motionless for 30 years while storms rage around and eventually end up on the mountain peak when the water recedes. And so, when you think I have given you the full recipe, I must throw you the final challenge in this chapter that will overturn everything you knew about wealth. You think the goal is a number on the account? You think the goal is 1,000,000 or 10 or 100? You look at the finish line, but you don't see that the road under your feet is disappearing. The number does not matter. Only one thing matters. Does your passive income cover your cost of living? And here, a variable comes into play about which all gurus remain silent: your ability to control your desires. You can have millions and be bankrupt if your appetites grow faster than your compound interest. You think wealth is the ability to buy more? I will tell you a truth that will hurt. True wealth is the ability to want less. And if you cannot solve this equation in your head, no stocks, no real estate, and no mathematics will save you. Are you ready to learn exactly what the finale of this game looks like? Or will you prefer to stay in the illusion that money will solve problems that reside in your soul? You think we are finished? You think that now that you know the secret of compound interest and understand that real estate is an anchor, not a sail, you have automatically won? Oh, such naivety. You are now at the most dangerous point of your journey because you have been handed a loaded weapon, knowledge. But you still don't know how to shoot. And most likely, the first thing you'll do is shoot yourself in the foot. You look at the finish line, imagining yourself on the deck of a yacht with a glass of champagne, but let me destroy this glossy picture before it destroys your life. If that is your goal, then you have already lost without even starting. You think wealth is the opportunity to buy things, but that is a lie sold to you, so you stay poor. True wealth is not the accumulation of matter. It is subtraction. Subtraction of worry, subtraction of obligations, subtraction of idiots from your social circle. You strive for a number on an account, thinking it will give you happiness, but a number is just ink on paper. What if I tell you that one can have $10 million and be the most miserable slave on the planet? I have seen such people. They come to me with eyes full of terror because their expenses grow faster than their income, and their wealth is just a golden cage, the key to which they threw away trying to impress people they don't even know. Here is a plot twist worthy of a Greek tragedy. Your main asset, the only asset that really matters, is not Apple stock and not the S&P 500 index. It is your ability to say no. You thought we were talking about finance? We have been talking about freedom this whole time. An index fund is just a tool, a hammer, with which you break chains. But if you use this hammer to build yourself a more expensive scaffold, what is the point? You look at a neighbor who bought a new house and feel a pang of envy. That pang is a symptom of your illness. You don't see his mortgage, you don't see his sleepless nights, you see only the facade. But now that you know the truth, you must look at him not with envy, but with the pity of a surgeon looking at a patient with gangrene. He cut off his future to buy the present. You are doing the opposite. You sacrifice the fake glitter of the present to buy eternity. But are you ready for loneliness? Because true rationality is the path of a loner. When everyone around is screaming about a new crisis, about the collapse of the dollar, about the end of the world, you will have to sit in silence and do nothing. Does that sound easy? Try sitting in a burning room without moving, knowing the fire is painted. Your brain will scream, demanding action, demanding to save the capital. But it is in this moment that your fate is decided. If you flinch, you are a corpse. If you remain calm, you are a king. You thought the difficulty was in earning money? No, the difficulty is in not going crazy owning it. Money is an amplifier. If you are stupid, money will make you phenomenally stupid. If you are greedy, money will turn you into a monster. An index fund will give you capital, but it won't give you character. Character you must forge yourself. And this process is much more painful than any stock market crash. And here is the final chord that should sound in your head like a funeral bell for your old beliefs. You ask, Charlie, when can I stop? When will it be enough? The answer will kill you. Never. If you don't define the word enough today, no amount will be enough for you tomorrow. You will run after the horizon until you drop dead. The only way to win this game is to exit it. Stop playing for status. Stop playing for consumption. Become invisible. You thought rich people wear brands. Rich people wear what is comfortable. You thought rich people drive Ferraris. Rich people drive what doesn't break. True wealth is when you don't give a damn. Don't give a damn about the crowd's opinion. Don't give a damn about trends. Don't give a damn about what people think of you. You have fuck you money. And it's not just money. It's a state of mind. Now you stand at a fork in the road. On one side, the familiar road. Mortgage, debts, beautiful car, stress, heart attack at 50. On the other side, a boring gray path. Old car, modest apartment, index fund, and absolute terrifying freedom. The freedom to wake up in the morning and realize you have nowhere to rush. The freedom to know that your money works harder than you do. The freedom to die not as a rich corpse in a cemetery, but as a living person who lived their life, not sold it. You think the choice is obvious? Oh no. Most of you will choose the beautiful chains, because freedom requires responsibility and slavery guarantees rations. You are afraid of responsibility. You are afraid to become the master of your destiny because then there will be no one to blame for failures. But I am not here to pity you. I am here to challenge you. Look at your life. Look at your assets. Are they assets or are they liabilities disguised as a dream? Are you building a foundation or digging your own grave? I gave you the map. I gave you the compass. I showed you where the mines lie, but I cannot walk this path for you. Now the ball is in your court, and don't you dare say I didn't warn you. When in 20 years you sit in your paid-off house that is worth nothing, looking at a person who chose the path of capital, don't say you were unlucky. Luck has nothing to do with it. It was mathematics, and you failed the exam. And now, if you have a drop of courage left, go down to the comments and write to me. Do you choose the sweet lie of real estate or the bitter truth of capital? Who are you? The future master of the world or the eternal tenant of your own illusions? I will be waiting, and remember, the market does not forgive idiots. Don't be one of them.